I want you to think about this. So think of protein like a construction site, right? We have protein that are like the construction workers. They help do the repair. But protein is also the construction materials. They build new muscle. So you do really need this. So during exercise, there's this thing that we have with protein. There's an increased oxidation and breakdown, meaning we utilize more of it and then we take more of it. It comes in two parts. So what we see is that if we have a rise in circulating amino acid pool, which means that if I eat more protein before I exercise, my body will not break down my muscle to utilize the protein I need to continue to do work. And if you do not have adequate amino acid stores, your body will break down protein to do the work. It won't just stop doing work. You just want it to keel over and die? You're crazy. It will continue to do work at a lower rate and less efficiency. So my question is, what are you trying to do out of this? When we think about how much you need, this is what I'm talking about. We focus more on the kilocalorie versus anything else, because kilocalories are actually more closely related to someone's training volume. So what I'm saying here is, so if I'm training Babette, I'm going to say she's about 70 kg, 150 pounds, probably, wait, you're not 154, but what I'm saying is that your calorie intake should be anywhere between 10 to 35% would come from protein. So for example, for Babette, who's about 70 kilos, 154 pounds, we're thinking 2,000 calories a day, 50 to 175 grams of protein in her diet per day. That's just 200 to 700 calories out of 2,000. 200 to 700, that's a wide range. Now, on days that she exercises more, she has more protein. On days she doesn't, she has less. It's basic maths. 10 to 35% is adequate. So what we see here is that athletes, you can see, they have an exceptional amount more than the sedentary individual, right? We see sedentary individual about 0.8 grams per kilo, but the athletes range anywhere between 1.4 to 2.0 grams per kilo body weight. That's 2.246 pounds, the body weight. Every time I hear a bodybuilder say 1 gram per 1 pound of body weight, it's an excess amount that you do not need on the system, okay? But what we see here is that you need protein to keep you in a nitrogen balance. This is basic chemistry. Nitrogen is the chemistry building block of your amino acid profile. If you don't have nitrogen, you're in a negative balance. That impacts your performance negatively. So in order for her to perform efficiently, we need to keep her in this positive nitrogen balance, anywhere between 1.4 to 2 grams of protein per body weight. Okay? And oftentimes we think endurance athletes need less protein. But this is really exercise intensity and duration dependent. If you're going to be running a marathon, you need to be on a higher level of protein intake to stay in nitrogen balance. Always. I would always aim for more protein than less, particularly if you're doing long endurance exercises. And again, I want to talk about leucine here, because the oxidation of leucine is upregulated significantly during endurance exercise. So what this means is this really reflects the need for higher amounts of amino acids for endurance athletes. And oftentimes with endurance athletes, we're only talking about carbohydrates, carbs. But really, oftentimes I see that my endurance athletes need more protein than my Olympic lifters. So what I really encourage is whole food processes, right? Like tofu, nuts, seeds, hemp seed meal. This woman blends everything. Anything and everything goes into a shake. And that is why she's not deficient. She eats it all, just in different ways. And so what I really want to emphasize is there's really no demonstrated benefit for athletes to consume more than 2 grams of protein. What we do see in the research literature, it is actually may negatively affect calcium stores, kidney function, bone health, and even cardiovascular health, which is why it's emphasized, keep it lower if you're sedentary, okay? Growing children, older adults, we say a little bit higher than 0.8 kg, anywhere between 1 gram to 1.2 grams will be the safe will be the safe zone. But as you can see here on the right, these are so many different plant-based foods with high amounts of protein content. Like tofu, we obviously see 22.5 grams, but broccoli raw, 15 grams of protein? That's insane. Bok choy has great protein. So be diverse in your food profile. Oh Lord, here we go. All right. This is a long slide, so buckle up, folks. And this is the slide that Babette was talking about. You might fall asleep in. So what I'd like to do is, even though I have a lot of notes here, I might just kind of pick and choose some key points so I can spend more time with her chit-chatting. I think what ends up happening here with the vegan diet is there's this concern of a micronutrient deficiency, right? Macronutrients, plant, carbs, fats, and proteins. Micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, all of that lovely jazz, right? So when we really talk about micronutrients, what we really need to notice here is the ADA has identified key nutrients for plant-based folks, okay? Your omega-3s, your iron, your zinc, your calcium, your vitamin D, and your B12. So let's start talking about iron here. Does anybody know what the recommended dietary allowance is for men? She says 20. 8 milligrams. 8 milligrams for men, 18 for women. And do you know you can get that in 1 pound of kale alone? Men. 1 pound of kale, you're like, oh, that's a lot. It could be if you're eating it as one bag, but if I have it as a side, as a dish, if I add it in my smoothies, if I juice it, I get the micronutrient density profile of it. That's going straight into the system. So plant foods, often what we worry about here with iron is that they say plant foods contain non-heme iron, right? And you think, and we hear that non-heme iron is not as absorbable as heme iron, which we find in animal-based foods. And the evidence does show some accuracy there. Non-heme iron is about 10% absorbed, whereas heme iron, animal-based, is about 18% absorbable. But I want to talk about how that is impacted by your current iron stores. So for example, if your iron stores are low, non-heme iron is actually more readily absorbable than heme iron. Weird, but that's how it works. And so you'll oftentimes hear that, well, some of these plant foods that have high amounts of iron, such as like legumes and grains, they also contain things like phytates. And phytates are inhibitors to iron. But if you do things like soak your beans and your grains, it reduces the phytate in the foods, right? And so you find that this can actually be negated by the way you prepare your plants. It's pretty great. And we know that leafy greens are a great source of vitamins and nutrients. This woman juices every day. She probably juices 64 to 87 ounces of juice daily. She consumes it before she comes to my house to work out. She consumes it during the workout, and she consumes it post-workout. So it is about micronutrient and nutrient timing as well, okay? Vitamin B12 is also a really important thing for what? Red blood cell formation, DNA synthesis, myelination and function of the central nervous system. But B12 deficiency is not something that's uncommon for the everyday folk. We often say that it's really common for the elderly, but really it's common for a lot of people, particularly unsupplemented vegans. So long story short, get a shot. Supplement with B12. You need to. You absolutely need to. There was this research that showed that deficiency in B12 actually causes circulating homocysteine to rise. And I don't know if you know this, but elevated homocysteine levels are actually associated with cardiovascular risk. So vitamin B12 plays so much more of a role to your function, okay? So make sure that you get this. It is essential for you, and you should get that shot or that supplement often. Oftentimes I say the shot because most supplements may not be able to handle these, to actually readily be digestible through the stomach acid. It completely breaks it down. and is not absorbable. So this is why we often say, please just get the B12 shot. Okay, zinc. Let's go to zinc. Zinc is great for immune function. It supports enzymatic reactions, DNA stabilization, gene expression. You care about looking younger, aging slower? Zinc. Zinc has got to be in your diet. And the thing is, zinc is actually provided in abundance, like iron, in a plant-based diet. But it's not really readily absorbed in plant-based foods. Did you know that approximately 25% of the zinc that comes in the standard American diet is actually coming from beef? That's where most people get it. But you can get it, again, from beans, whole grains, nuts, seeds. They have high zinc content. But again, if you are also worried about the phytate, which impacts the absorption of zinc like it does iron, guess what? We prepare our foods the same way, right? So the most recent estimate for zinc is actually 50% higher now than what the USDA, the RDI recommends. So they're saying it's about 12 milligram for men and about 16.5 milligrams for women. All right, moving on to omega-3s. I told you this is a long slide, so just hang in there. I'm almost there. I've got 4 to go. Okay, omega-3s, right? There is this overwhelming evidence that omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, DHA, really contribute to brain and heart health. Have you heard the Scherzai's talks yet? So you know exactly what I'm talking about. They are brilliant when it comes to this. But alpha linolenic acid, right? ALA. This omega-3 fat can actually be elongated to produce EPA and DHA. So if you're actually getting ALA in your diet, most people say that like if you're getting flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts, you should be able to produce enough of this EPA and DHA naturally. That's actually not true. That's actually not true. There are people that do not self-produce ALA, EPA, and DHA in the diet, even when they consume enough ALA. Okay, so this is dependent upon your genetics. And if that is the case, we suggest taking an algae-based omega-3. They exist. Babette, Chris, and I have been taking this for over 1.5 years, and it has it helped you significantly? You feel good? I was having issues with hair fall, actually, 1.5 years ago, and I started taking omega-3, and it immediately mitigated that. And so what I realized is that I was actually completely deficient in this micronutrient, and I really needed it. So that's another thing. Okay, let's move on to iodine. This one's such a tough one because with iodine, iodized salt is such the major intake of how we get iodine in the standard American diet, right? So we always play with this, do I want to have more salt in my diet, right? Because what happens when we do that? Carries the risk of hypertension, kidney disease, possibly stroke, all of that for some extra iodine. And why are most iodine levels low in plants? Because your soil sucks. And so we get what we reap. Really low iodine-based plant food. So what do?
Seaweed.
Where will you get it?
Seaweed. Salt.
She said salt. Where else can we get it? Seaweed, kelp, sea veggies, like sea moss has over 92 vitamins and minerals and nutrients. You know who turned me onto that? And I'm the exercise physiologist. But this woman is a magician when it comes to playing with foods, right? 2 more to go. Calcium. The recommended dietary allowance is 1,000 milligrams, yes? So where can you get calcium?
Carrots.
Kales, greens, bok choy.
Almonds.
I'm sorry?
Almonds.
Yes, almonds.
Carrots.
Did you know that bok choy and kale have higher levels of calcium bioavailability than milk? Approximately 50% of bioavailability from kale and 30% from milk. So milk does not do your body good. And remember, nuts and seeds are also very rich in vitamins and minerals. So whether you're an athlete, a vegan, or a non-vegan, you should be having these in your diet, right? They're mineral rich. And let's go to the last one, vitamin D. why do we need vitamin D?
Protects against cancer.
I've got a doctor in the front. There we go. Yeah, we do. Calcium is inabsorbable in the absence of vitamin D. They work synergistically, right? And we get that facilitation calcium absorption in the gut if we have vitamin D there. So just remember, one doesn't work without the other, and that's why the media sells it to you. And your job is to be smarter than that. And why do we need calcium? Because calcium regulates muscular contraction. It's about calcium handling, right? So there's big implications on having enough calcium and how that impacts performance. Because vitamin D deficiency actually impacts a majority of this country. Did you know that 30 to 50% of the population is vitamin D deficient? Yeah. Which is why we say take your 2,000 IU supplementation daily. Take it. Even if you're getting sunlight, take it. Okay? So now that I took you through all of that fun stuff, let's go into the stuff that this woman kind of does. Okay? Before I let you hear her speak. So this study is looking at an intervention of a 4-week vegan diet combined with high intensity functional training on performance. So what we're looking for here is that the researchers are suggesting here that a vegan diet would not be more effective than an omnivorous diet when they engaged in this CrossFit training protocol, okay? So this study enrolled 20 CrossFit athletes, 12 males, 8 females, who had no prior experience with a vegan diet. And so they trained 3 times a week for 4 weeks under the same monitored conditions. So the thing I want to say here is, though they were CrossFit athletes, nobody had any performance-enhancing substances, no stimulants, no coffee, no dietary supplements. So that is one important note. And all of the meals were reported using MyFitnessPal. And so their macronutrient profiles were taken. And so what we saw in this study is that participants were either randomly assigned to the vegan diet or the omnivorous diet. They received their monthly diet from a dietitian by mail every month, and they checked in with the dietitian 3 times a week every time they went to go train. So there was a lot of control here. And the training protocols were absolutely significantly the same. So you could see that they actually engaged in Olympic exercises, they did wall balls, they did kettlebell swings, they did medicine ball throws, anaerobic drills, and they also did some aerobic activity. And so to assess the impact of the diet, they actually took blood. They measured their glucose, their cholesterol, their iron, their protein, and all these other markers. And so all the training was done under supervision. So what did we find out here? Well, what we found out is that both groups actually showed improvement in performance. They both actually performed deadlift squats, improved 70% of their 1 rep max in both groups, meat and veg. However, when we compared the diets, there were no significant differences in overall strength or specific performance. And I think that's actually a very good thing. It's a very good thing, because what we're seeing here is that you can have a vegan diet and not be negatively impacted, because everybody says you can't be strong and fit on a vegan diet. This 2025 study says absolutely the opposite. Performance improved across the board. Training efficiency improved across the board. And what we found is actually those in the veg diet actually had higher red blood cell counts compared to those that had the mixed dietary group. What we didn't find is that cholesterol levels, liver function levels, those weren't off or higher in those that ate meat. But I think what's really important to note is that this is a short-term study. We're looking at something happening over the course of 4 weeks, not 4 months or 4 years. And so when we look at longitudinal impacts versus acute impacts, we would see probably a bigger difference over time. But what I think is the most important thing is that this supports that improvements in strength and endurance can happen if you have a strategic vegan plan, you have your micronutrient and macronutrient profile. It doesn't matter. If you're eating the right things at the right time, getting enough protein and enough vitamins, you're going to improve your performance. So if you're looking at what an actual diet could look like for a sample athlete, 3,600 kcals, which some people think might be a lot, but remember, this is a CrossFit trained athlete. This is somebody who's training anywhere between 4 to 5 days a week doing high intensity functional training. And what do we see? Breakfast, small smoothie, lunch, mixed grain salad, tofu, strawberry, snack, sprouted grain bread with some cashew butter. I mean, it is whole food plant-based, and it's still 3,600 kcals and 120 grams of protein. And by the way, these slides should be available to everybody. And if you go to wellnessharmony.com, which is our website, we will send you all of these. So wellnessharmony.com, you put in your email, and we will send you all the slides.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry, did I go? Do I need to go back for you? Okay, I just want to make sure you got that. All right, this is one of my favorite studies. So I've been luckily working with Stanford University. With Greener by Default, I'm a member of the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative, where we work with a bunch of institutions where we conduct studies like this. And this swap meet study conducted by Dr. Christopher Gardner at Stanford. How many of you guys saw the twin experiment? Yeah, that badass of a guy. He did this one. So this swap meet study really kind of wanted to analyze the impacts of what a whole food plant-based diet would look like compared to a plant-based meat alternative diet compared to an omnivorous diet. So we looked at 3 different diets here. Because oftentimes people are like, oh, analogs. Those are so bad for your health. Well, excuse me, but some of those analogs start shifting people to more plants. And some of those analogs have a lower carbon footprint. So I will always push for them if that is what my clients want, to make it more palatable. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to see if these 3 different types of diets had any impact on someone's athletic performance. And so what happened here, this trial involved 24 recreational athletes. Recreational like us, right? Unless there's somebody here that's a pro athlete. I think we're all recreational. 12 runners and 12 resistance trained athletes. And they followed the 3 different diets, right? Whole food plant-based with meat alternatives, or omnivorous. Now, they followed these diets each for 4 weeks in a randomized order. So the whole food plant-based focused on only whole foods, legumes, greens, plant-based meats, included the analogs, and then the omnivore diet. They all maintained the same workout routine. The only thing that changed was the diet. And so for the runners, what we found here, the key findings was this. No significant difference in performance among the 3 diets. This is huge. This is great news. It did not matter. Resistance runners, endurance athletes maintained their endurance and their strength regardless of what diet they followed. Remember, because they followed each diet for 4 different weeks, and they measured blood markers each time they trained. So each person got the same bolus, and what they found is the whole food plant-based diet showed lower body weight, lower body fat compared to those on the animal diet. That's what we saw. So in summary, it really suggests that these whole food plant-based diets, whether incorporating analogs or not, they can support athletic performance. They can. If that gets your clients eating the right micronutrients and macronutrient profile, it can enhance and elevate athletic performance. So this serves as a really good, convenient protein source for people that may not just want to eat tofu. Okay? So what I think is more important now is Chris telling you how these practical applications can actually be applied to the recreational athlete.